Hi everyone, so we will now build the next component in the game, that is a player and a gem object. So what we will do, we will start by building two JSON objects. One refers to the player and other refers to the gem. Okay, so I have already made these objects and the coordinates are chosen according to the okay, you can see the y coordinate is h by 2 and the gem is placed at a distance w minus 100, that means towards the end of the game, and the player is placed in the beginning of the game. Okay, so this is the player and this is the gem. The goal of the player is to move across the horizontal line and reach the gem with minimum collision with the enemies. So that's what we need to do. Okay, so I have added two more properties. Okay, one more property to the player that we will discuss later on, but you can see player will have a speed, and since gem is a static object, it does not contain a variable speed. It does not contain the speed property because it is static. Okay, so we have player and we have gem. So what we will do in the draw function, we will draw the player and we will also draw the gem. So to do that, we need to load the images first. Okay, so let's try to load the images for the player. So player image equals to new image and player image dot src equals to assets slash superhero dot png, and we have image for the gem. So we have loaded the images and let's go to the draw function. Okay, so what we will do is we will call the function draw image. Pen dot draw image, we have player image and the object we have is called a player. So player dot x, player dot y, player dot h and player dot w. Similarly for gem, so this should be w and this should be h here. Okay, so we are ready with these two objects. Okay, there is some error. Player images is not defined in load images. Okay, this should be image. Okay, spelling mistake. And you can see now we have all the objects on the screen. The next step that we should do in our game is to move the player. Okay, okay, so the next thing that we will do is the movement of the player. Okay, and for that we need to add some event listeners that will listen to the events and that will drive the player accordingly. Okay, so I'm going to add a very basic event, that is on mouse click I'm going to move my player. Okay, so where do we create a event listener? We will create this inside the init function. Okay, so what we will do, we can listen for events on the canvas. So I'm not going to create it on the entire document object, I will just create it on the canvas object, so that if someone clicks on the game region, then that event will be triggered. Okay, so listen to events on the canvas. So I can say canvas dot add event listener. You can see we have two type of variables here. First is a string, the type of event we want to have. Then we need to give a listener function. Okay, so the string is called mouse down if you want to do something on a click of a mouse, and here we need to give the function that we need to execute. Okay, so either we can create a new function or we can just create an anonymous function here. So that means this function does not have a name. Okay, but it's a function. So we can say, okay, let's try to test our event listener. We can say, okay, mouse pressed. So let's see if it works. So if I click here, you can see we are getting mouse pressed. That means mouse is getting actually pressed. And what we will do in this function is we will alter the state of the player. Okay, so we will assume the player is moving or it is paused. So let's say it's not moving initially, let's say it's false. I can say here player dot moving equals to true. So that means player is now in the moving state. And similarly, I can check in the update function if the state of the player is moving. So if the player is in moving state, then I will increment the x value of that particular player. Okay, so let's go to the update method and we can put a check. If player dot moving is true, then we need to say player dot x plus equals to player dot speed, and that's it. Okay, we have line number 60. Okay, this looks fine. Okay, so if you click on the error, you can actually see where it is. It's in the JSON object of the player that we have created. So let's fix that. So this should not be a semicolon here. Okay, let's reload our page, and you can see I just clicked it once and the player was always moving. So what actually happened is we also need to make the state of the player as false when the mouse is not clicked. Okay, so once you click the mouse, the state of the player becomes moving equals true forever, and the player keeps on moving. So we need to add another event listener of the similar type. Okay, I will just copy this and I can say on mouse up, that means you are releasing the mouse. So you can say mouse released and player dot moving equals to false. So that will stop the player when the mouse is not pressed. So you can see we press the mouse, and once we release the mouse released event is triggered and the player stops moving during that particular duration. So that's all for this video, and in the next step you have to implement scoring and you need to implement collision detection.